Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Okay, so have you ever felt like you are running on empty, but you keep going because you keep telling yourself that stopping feels impossible? You tell yourself that just one more week until this project is done, one more week until this crazy season is done, and then I'll rest. But somehow, just one more week turns into months or even years. Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. And today we're going to talk about why high achievers, especially those in high stress roles like veterinarians, doctors, executives, admin assistants, because that is a very high stress role, often find themselves trapped in this burnout cycle. So welcome everybody. I'm Teresa. I am your mindset and recovery coach. And this week we are diving into the topic of breaking free from burnout. Each day I'll be walking you through actionable steps to help you identify, prevent, and recover from burnout so that you can thrive without sacrificing your well-being. Today we're going to start with why high achievers burn out and the cost of ignoring it. So stick around, because by the end of the session I'll share some powerful insights that might just help you recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Okay, part one. What is burnout and why are high achievers prone to it? So let's start by talking about what burnout actually is. Burnout is more than just feeling tired after a long week. It's a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged and excessive stress. For high achievers like veterinarians, doctors, entrepreneurs, and other driven professionals, the risk is even higher. The three key reasons that this group of people are prone to burnout is perfectionism and unrealistic standards. As high achievers, we often hold ourselves to impossibly high standards. We believe that anything less than perfection is failure, which leads to chronic stress. I'm going to use veterinarians as an example, but for instance, they deal with life and death decisions daily, which can create immense emotional pressure. Number two is a reluctance to delegate or ask for help. Hey Mario, good morning. A reluctance to delegate or ask for help. So many people who have high standards, who are high achievers, feel like they have to do it all. They don't feel comfortable delegating. They avoid delegating tasks or asking for help because they fear losing control or appearing incompetent. So they are, over time, this do-it-all mentality becomes overwhelming and is unsustainable, y'all. Another reason is because they ignore self-care and rest. Yep, we high achievers often sacrifice our own well-being in pursuit of success. We see rest as a luxury, not a necessity. But the longer we push ourselves without rest, the closer we get to complete burnout. So it is so important that we take time to rest. It is not a luxury, it is a necessity. So the impact of chronic stress on the brain. So this past week we were talking about how trauma impacts your relationships and your work life. And that podcast episode actually dropped today, where I take all 5 of the live sessions from last week and I put it into one concise podcast episode. So that dropped this morning at 7 a.m. You can watch it wherever you get your podcasts. But we talk about big T trauma versus little T trauma. And chronic stress is the little T trauma. It is traumatic to your body, your mind, and your soul. So let's talk about what happens when chronic stress goes unchecked. Chronic stress impacts 3 critical areas. It impacts the brain. So prolonged stress affects memory, decision-making, and focus. The brain's prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thinking and problem solving, becomes weak under stress. It weakens under stress, friends. This is why so many high achievers may experience brain fog, forgetfulness, poor concentration, when they are starting to feel burned out. In the body, stress triggers the body's fight or flight response, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. But when stress is constant, the body remains in that heightened state, leading to inflammation, fatigue, a weakened immune system. So this is actually something that I have dealt with. Whenever I have inflammation, I struggle with pain in my low back where I've had surgeries, and in my gut where I have a tortuous bowel. I have a tortuous large intestine. So anytime I have chronic stress, it wreaks havoc on my body. And I know I'm not the only one. So over time, chronic stress can lead to high blood pressure, heart disease, and even autoimmune conditions. So it doesn't just affect your emotional health, your physical health, it also affects your emotional health. And so burnout doesn't just affect your body, it also takes a toll on your emotional well-being. It can lead to feelings of hopelessness, irritability, anxiety, and even depression. So again, going back to my example of veterinarians, many of them that I've worked with feel emotionally drained because they're constantly giving to patients and clients without taking the time to refill their own cup. And that can be detrimental to your brain, your body, and your emotions, as we've already pointed out. So the cost of ignoring burnout and the real consequences. Here's where it gets real. The cost of ignoring burnout is huge. You have decreased work performance. Burnout leads to errors, missed details, decreased productivity. High achievers often try to compensate by working harder, but it only deepens the burnout. Strained relationships. When you're burned out, your relationships suffer. Whether it's your spouse, your children, or your colleagues, relationships are going to suffer. When you become emotionally unavailable, irritable, and distant, leading to misunderstandings and disconnect within your relationships. You have an increased risk of mental health disorders, so prolonged burnout can trigger depression, anxiety, and even substance abuse as individuals try to cope with the burnout. Studies show that veterinarians in particular are 2.7 times more likely to die by suicide due to the intense emotional burden of their work. That's huge, y'all. It's important to take time out to rest, to take care of yourself, and to focus on your health and well-being. The physical health consequences of chronic burnout has been linked to cardiovascular disease, immune dysfunction, and other long-term health issues. That's your heart, your immune system. Let's not get burned out. Ignoring burnout doesn't just hurt your mind, it literally takes a toll on your body. So I want to share a quick story. I work with a veterinarian who was experiencing all the classic symptoms of burnout or signs of burnout: exhaustion, emotional detachment, decreased job satisfaction. She was giving 110% to her patients, but had nothing left for herself. Over time, her relationships at home became strained and her physical health started to decline. It wasn't until we implemented small but seriously intentional changes like setting boundaries, delegating tasks, and prioritizing rest that she began to recover. Today, she's thriving, but she'll be the first one to tell you that ignoring the warning signs almost cost her everything. So, burnout isn't something that happens overnight, but once it takes hold, it can be incredibly hard to reverse. Recognizing the signs early and taking intentional steps to prevent it is key. So this week, we're going to break down practical steps to prevent burnout, set boundaries, and build a life where you can achieve success without sacrificing your well-being. So if today's session resonated with you, make sure to join me tomorrow morning where we will be diving into recognizing early warning signs and patterns. Drop a comment if you've ever felt the weight of burnout and let me know what resonated with you today. And don't forget to invite someone who needs this message, because burnout doesn't have to be the end of your story. Let's break free from burnout. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I can't wait to dive deeper into the conversation with y'all again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourself because you deserve it. Okay, bye.